الرحيم فإذا قضي الصلاة فانتشروا في الأرض وابتغوا من فضل الله واذكروا الله كثيرا لعلكم تفلحون آمنا بالله صدق الله العلي العظيم صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. Your second salawat for love of Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. And your loudest salawat for ta'jeel farj sahib al-asr wal zaman. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. We've almost come to the end of our nights of discussion, but there's a few things that I want to still talk about. Actually, there's many things that are worth talking about. But in the role of finances, there's a discussion to be had about what it means to earn an income and a halal income, and to prefer an income that aligns with my iman as well. As we mentioned, we were talking about the system of capitalism is on the basis of making money, and that's considered the best quality that a human being can possess. And this is not the best quality that Allah looks for us to have. Rather, Allah says, the best of you, inna akramakum indallahi atqakum. Whoever attains piety has the best of character that we possess. There is a balance between developing taqwa and earning a halal income and going out into the world to work and to earn money. And this is an Islamic perspective in teachings from the Ahlul Bayt about the concept of earning money and what is the types of money and what are the types of things that we should be doing. First and foremost, it's important to note that there is nothing wrong with either men or women earning money. The obligation of the household is on the man. However, a woman, if she's fulfilling her obligations in her family, has permission to earn a living, as we saw in the examples of Sayyidah Khadija, Sayyidah Fatima, and many other women within the seerah of Islam and the biography of Islam have demonstrated that earning of an income is halal and jaiz. So this isn't a one-sided conversation, but rather it's for anyone. That how do we take a look at the process of earning an income? The first section about this is to understand something. In America, you earn an income or you do work until I can make so much money that I don't have to do work. And the idea in American culture is that the entire purpose of money is pay your bills and then be rich and just stay rich and don't do anything else. In Islam, the concept of earning money and doing work are two separate things. Earning money is a good thing, but work within itself is mustahab and recommended to be in profession and to do work, even if it's not associated with the fact that I'm in dire need of income. There are examples that we see, for example, even from the life of our fifth Imam, Muhammad ibn Ali al-Baqir alayhi salam, where when he would spend the afternoons of the hottest day out in the fields working, and when it was said to him, what are you doing? You're endangering your life to earn money? And the Imam replies and he explains, no, rather I am doing one of the things that Allah loves, that I am out and working and taking care of my family. My interest in this action of going out to work is the ibadat of Allah. Which is why our Prophet would explain, يوجد 70 أبواب للعبادة مضمون الرواية. That there are 70 doors of ibadat, 70 different types of ibadat. وَأَفْضَلُهُمْ طَلَبُ الرِّزْقِ الْحَلَالِ. And the best of them is going out and looking for a halal income. Historically, amongst, for example, the Bani Israel and others, earning an income was seen as unholy. That you did this in spite of your desire to dedicate to God. Islam came and changed it and said, no, the process of earning an income, the process of going out and working is an ibadat in the religion of Islam. So for example, when we go out and work, it's about the aspect of looking at it as this is a relationship we have with Allah, and it's something that Allah loves from us, and therefore we practice the habit of going out and doing work, and it's a good quality to possess. Similarly, there's a riwayah from our sixth Imam, where وَقَدْ قَالَ لَهُ مَعَاذُ بْنِ الْكَثِيرِ بَايِعُ الْأَكْسِيَابِ. Mu'adh ibn Kathir was a businessman, and he used to sell clothing. And he had a clothing business where he would sell clothes. Mu'adh comes to Imam Sadiq and he says, إِنِّي قَدْ حَمَمْتُ أَنْ أَدْعَ السُّوقِ وَفِي يَدِي شَيْءٍ. He goes to Imam Sadiq, he says, Yabna Rasulullah, I intend to leave the market. I'm going to stop buying and selling. I'm going to close I'm going to retire. Because I have some money now, I don't need to worry about it anymore that I have to go to work every day. So, Imam Sadiq replies to him, إِذَنْ يَسْقُطَ رَأْيُكَ وَلَا يُسْتَعَانُ بِكَ عَلَى شَيْءٍ. Imam Sadiq says, if you leave the market and you're not in the market and working anymore, then your regard will fall. People will not be interested in asking you for help and taking your opinion in affairs because you won't be useful for anything anymore. The instruction of the Imam to Ma'adh is about the concept of the fact that this work and being in the market and being involved adds value to both you and to society. It has less to do with the fact that I need money necessarily, but rather that this is a door of ibadah, this is a door of social service and something to be involved in. So in general, work, being busy in life is something that is appreciated, is a good quality to possess. And it's not necessarily that I'm only working because I need money. Rather, even if I don't need money, it's something mustahab that we stay busy with as one of the actions of ibadah. So the second point that comes is to say then what is the best type of work a person can do? Where is it that I should go? In this, there is an extensive discussion about talking about what are the best types of work to do, but there is an overall consensus on one element. And for this, we look at a hadith of Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. قال الأمير المؤمنين تعرضوا للتجارة فإن لكم فيها غنى عما في أيدي الناس وأن الله عز وجل يحب المحترف الأمين. Amir al-Mu'mineen says, go out and learn a trade and learn a business. Because in this business and in this trade, you will have independence from what is in the hands of others. And certainly Allah loves the one gainfully engaged in a profession. One of the best types of sources of income you can possess is having your own business, is having your own source of income or having a profession that looks at your skill set to produce for you. And there's a discussion that talks about the fundamental of why it's important to have this independence. And the reason for that is very often when I work for someone, I look to their pleasure to decide what it is that I will earn. They become my intermediary between me and Allah, and sometimes I forget Allahu ar-Raziq. I forget that it is Allah who is supposed to provide for me, and I start thinking my boss is the one who gives me. And my boss becomes almost like a God that I look to his pleasure before I look to the pleasure of Allah. What does my boss want from me? But in the case of, for example, the establishment of your own business and using your own skills to earn your income, you realize I can do everything right that I want to, but it is Allah who then sends the customer. It is Allah then who guides me in the process of earning an income. There are certain professions that you'll see that the Anbiya participated in as well too. And some of them had farming, others had shepherding. Both of these professions relied on something more than a man's physical ability or belief that man is in control of his destiny and his income. And which is why the same concept for us. When we work in a job, we think as long as I come to the job, I put in my 8 hours, I do what I'm supposed to, my boss is happy, I'll make an income, I'll be all right. But when it's in my own business, my own source of income that I have to struggle with, if it's my own effort I have to exert, or in the case of farming, I planted the fields, but if there's no rain, there's no income. It makes me rely on the fact that there is something beyond my capacity and control that I need assistance with, and it makes me rely on Allah to help provide for my needs. So which is why when Amir al-Mu'mineen is describing and explaining, go out and own your own business, go out and work for yourself, go out and learn a skill that entitles you to earn an income. Craftsmanship, woodworking, farming, all of these different elements. Today's day and age, being a therapist, being a pharmacist, those things that as an independent, my skill is what's working for me, and that it is Allah who is then giving me rizq, is something matloob because it connects me back to Allah and it explains to me I can do everything right, but Allah is the one who's going to send me the customer, Allah is the one who's going to give me the opportunity to use my shop. Which is why there's actually an entire door of hadith or multiple doors of hadith that talk about the etiquette of doing business. That if on the one hand Islam is promoting you to go out and do business, to go out and earn and count on Allah to provide for you, then there's an instruction manual of behavior that you need to have that I should have for me to be able to go and earn an income. Which is why we have a hadith from our Prophet Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Man ba'a wa ashtara falyajtanib khamsa khisal. Whoever wants to go out and buy and sell, he should have, or he should avoid 5 attributes. One, that فَلَا يُبِيعَنَّ وَلَا يَشْتَرِيَنَّ الرِّبَا وَالْحَلْفِ وَكِتْمَانَ الْعَيْبِ وَالْحَمْدَ إِذَا بَاعَ وَالذَّمَّ إِذَا اشْتَرَى. Imam explains, he says, going into business is not a free-for-all, you can do whatever you want to. Rasulullah explains, he says, be careful of 5 qualities you don't want to possess. 1 is riba, is usury. 2 is taking false oaths when you buy and you sell, lying about what you're selling and lying about what you're buying. Hiding of the defects in your products so that you get a better price for it is one of the things that he says is not permissible. Praising what you sell and saying what I sell is the best, and showing disapproval for what you intend to buy. These are 5 attributes that talk about the etiquette that if I'm going to be in business, if I'm going to go out and do work, how do I do it? That I avoid charging money to make money, which is riba. I don't, for example, take false oaths and make promises and guarantees that I can't keep. I don't go through and hide the defects of my products. It doesn't mean you have to go tell everybody this is what's wrong, but I don't hide it and I don't make it something that's impossible to know until after you've purchased something. I don't praise my own products as saying it's the best in comparison to others. And I also don't go through the process of showing disapproval that's saying, oh, what you're selling me is bad, why should I pay you more for it? Amir al-Mu'mineen had a similar aspect where he would take the time and he would go into the souk, into the markets, and he would say, Ya Ahl al-Tujjar, Ya Ahl al-Tujjar, oh, those of you who are the buyers and sellers, al-fiqh thumma al-matjar, al-fiqh al-matjar, thumma al-matjar. And he would repeat this over and over again. And the essence of what Amir al-Mu'mineen was saying, he says, if you want to be a businessman and buy and sell, know what Islam requires you to do. Know the rules of buying and selling. Know the rules of what's permissible to buy and sell. Then go out and do business. When we choose a profession or an industry to go into, not just in the aspect of business, but even in general knowledge, it's important that we understand the ahkam that are associated with it. That if I'm working in banking, am I paying attention to the fact of who my clients are and what I'm doing with them? If I'm working in healthcare, am I careful of the process of am I earning a halal income? Am I misrepresenting what it is that I'm doing to make an income? Am I doing things that are inappropriate according to Islam? And if that's the case, am I allowed to earn that income or not? Each of us, for the profession that we're in, have an obligation to understand the ahkam and how Islam pertains to it. If I'm a barber, and someone's asking me to shave their beard, can I? If I'm, for example, in healthcare and someone's saying bill inappropriately, can I? What am I supposed to do? All of these attributes are explained again by the Ahlul Bayt, where we see a riwayah from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. من أراد التجارة فليتفقه في دينه ليعلم بذلك وَمَنْ لَمْ يَتَفَقَّهُ فِي الدِّينِ ثُمَّ اتْجَرَ تَوَرَّتْ الشُّبَهَاتِ. That whoever trades must learn his religion thoroughly in order to know what is allowed and what is forbidden for him. And whoever does not learn about his religion and then practices trading will certainly get entangled in uncertainties. So the etiquette of that one, if Ahlul Bayt and Islam are promoting the aspect of being in business. Why? Because it makes me rely on Allah to provide for me. Then the second element that they're explaining is make sure that if you go into this area, you understand how do I make sure that I'm not my own barrier to Allah sending me rizq because I'm doing something haram or I'm doing something inappropriate. To take that time to learn the fiqh, to learn the processes of how do I conduct my business. Am I taking riba? Am I doing something haram and then complaining, why does Allah not give me more money? These are aspects that we have to pay attention to when we go through the process of earning an income. Which brings us to the next section of this, that one of the ways that you earn an income and you start your business is you take loans. If you look at the American system of business today, and you look at the American process of building a lifestyle, you're supposed to build on debt. The most successful businessman is the one who is constantly leveraged. That if he's worth 5 million, he has 7 million in debt. He's constantly taking what he possesses and taking more money out against it and utilizing it to earn an income. This is not an Islamic concept, by the way. The American system of business and earning wealth, of constantly leveraging debt, is not the way Islam wants you to earn a halal income. As a matter of fact, it's a negative quality. It takes a look at things in an inappropriate way, and which is why when we start taking a look at business, sometimes we think it's impossible for us to earn an income because of the differences in the ta'arud that exists. However, understand how Islam looks at debt. Islam looks at debt as a liability. Islam looks at debt as something harmful to you. When we take a look and we see in ahkam of khums, especially in our contemporary time, there's a ruling that essentially said that if I have debt that I've taken out, which is necessary for me to live, until I have finances equivalent to the debt that I have no khums due on me. The significance of this ruling was to say that khums is a responsibility for someone who has financial means above their expenses. It should never happen that I have debts that I can't meet because I have a religious obligation to pay in this regard. So what happened, as long as you have an outstanding debt, you may have the ability to forego khums until your savings equals your debt or greater. You know what the consequence of this was that many people in America stood up and said, Sheikh, then I'll never have to pay khums. Because for my businesses to grow, I'm constantly taking out debt. And I'm not a good businessman if I don't have more debt than I have assets. And this is where the American concept of doing business becomes complicated and problematic. Islam's view of debt is very different than the Western culture of debt, which means that you should always have some debt. Islam looks at debt as a difficulty and as a flaw and as a problem. When we see, for example, the statement of our sixth Imam, خَفَفُ الدَّيْنِ فَإِنَّ فِي خِفْتِ الدَّيْنِ زِيَادَةُ الْعُمْرِ. Reduce your debts, lighten your debts, for certainly in having very little debt comes a longer life. Amir al-Mu'mineen would explain, he says, الدَّيْنُ رِقُّ الْقَضَاءِ الْعِتْقِ. Debt is a bondage, is a slavery, and repayment of it is freedom for you. We see Amir al-Mu'mineen again, كَثْرَةُ الدَّيْنِ تُسَيِّرُ الصَّادِقِ كَاذِبًا وَالْمُنْجِزْ مُخْلِفًا. Too much debt is something that makes a truthful person a liar and an honest person dishonest. Our view of debt is something that it can be used when it's a necessity and it's permissible. There's an entire discussion where Imam Qadim explains, and he says that on a father and a husband is the responsibility to provide, and may Allah give you sufficiency to provide. But should you find yourself in a condition that you don't have the ability to provide for yourself, then resorting to debt is not impermissible for you. Meaning the nature of how we should look at debt as a family, as a community, as a society, is that debt is the last means by which I move forward, not the first step that I take in a direction. The use of debt in our contemporary society is an example of almost slavery. That I can't allow you to leave, I can't allow you to do anything else. Why? Because you have a financial obligation. And for that you have to put up with many difficulties. The one who taught me this was somebody who I once worked for. That whenever you would go out and buy something, he would come to you and celebrate with you. He was a true shaitan. Why? And he would tell you, I'm celebrating with you, I'm happy with you. Spend more money, buy more things. And you'd be like, I'm spending money, why are you happy? He says, because your spending of money makes you tied to me that you'll never leave me. Because you have to pay all of these bills. So the entire system is designed that I make you want and desire wealth, I make you want and desire objects, and as a consequence of that, you have no ability to stand up against what's wrong and what's inappropriate because you're constantly in a state of needing to pay off this debt. One of the arguments that's happening contemporarily in our society right now is many people disagree with what our government and those who are the president and people in our government are doing. Yet no one is taking the time to go out and stand up against them. Why? Because they say, we have bills to pay. Who will pay my bills if I'm outside protesting these people? Who will take care of my obligations? Who will pay my debts if I'm very busy protesting against something? The system figured out a way that I can keep you quiet and busy. Why? Because you have so many obligations on you that haqq will become batil and you'll still say nothing about it. And our society is doing that right now. It's because of how debt has been viewed as something as a necessity for life and something that we should all be possessing. If we're intelligent, we should have lots of debt because that gives me someone else's resources so that I can have a good quality of life. But the consequence of that idea that good quality of life is important took away my adalat, took away my justice, took away my insaniya, took away my humanity, took away my dignity that I'm busy in the process of paying. Which is why structuring your life around debt just so that I can make more money is not an Islamic concept. Islam looked at debt as something as a difficulty. The reason, and you can see that Islam looked at debt as a difficulty, what's the longest verse in the Holy Quran? إِذَا دَايَنْتُمْ بِالدَّيْنِ. Allah in the longest verse in the Holy Quran is talking about that should you be in a situation that if you need to take a debt, what should you do in that situation? How should you structure your debt? Islam did not look at taking a loan as something normal and natural and everybody should be doing whenever they wanted to. Islam looked at debt as something that a person does when they're in a situation of difficulty, not to take advantage of each other, and how to ensure that you fulfill your obligations to one another should you have to incur the responsibility of debt. The Islamic financial principles stand against the American financial principles, which is why this system is not a model for us. It is something we have to grow in spite of. So this is why taking loans, taking these things is not the best way to grow your business. The best way to grow your business is to trust in Allah. Don't trust in the bank, trust in Allah to provide for you and to figure out ways that I can be away from the structure of debt as I grow my business. The idea of growing a business and growing independence and growing income that is directly from Allah is one of the most promotable aspects that we possess. It's one of the best aspects that we possess. And it's something that we have to continue to evolve in and to develop and not count on and assume that we are the ones who can do this on our own. Our Holy Prophet, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad, has a very clear explanation on this, and this is one of the very famous hadith from our Prophet, where he goes, Iyyakum wad-dayn. Be careful and beware. Iyyakum wad-dayn. Be careful of debt. فَإِنَّهُ حَمًّا بِاللَّيْلِ وَظُلٌّ بِالنَّهَارِ. That debt is something that is a source of anxiety in your nights and keeps you awake at night, and it is a source of disgrace during the day. Now, many times we think of this debt as being that private debt that goes on between one person and another, that I took a loan from someone. And today, much of the debt that we take is structured debt. And it's true that my responsibility in structured debt is to simply be able to make the payments, and if I can make the payments, that I'm free. But even that is a form of slavery within itself, that it prevents you from traveling, from changing your life, improving the quality of your life, because you're constantly tied by this debt. It's the new phase of indentured servitude in America, is to live under the umbrella of debt. And it's our obligation to separate from that, which is one of the most important lessons about financial responsibility. Do not live in debt. Do not grow yourself through debt. We assume that debt that is given to us is obviously for our benefit. It's not. Even the concept of a mortgage. If you take a mortgage on a house right now, you will pay double the value of the house, once in interest and once for the actual price tag that you paid. Now, understanding all of this, it is not haram to take out loans. It is not forbidden. And the concept of the usury is something that if we were free from it, we wouldn't pay it. But in the case that it will cause us harm, you can do daf' dharar and pay the interest on something to protect yourself from the harm that they would take away your property, endanger your life, and endanger your ability to take care of your family. But our focal point is that this structure should be done in such a way that I don't prioritize and assume that it's normal to pay interest. I stay away from these things. We build our own community and our own structure up. And we won't be able to do that until we understand what is the Islamic principle by which we should be operating as opposed to the American principles we should be operating on the basis of. The use of debt is a use to keep people from being able to speak up and to have dignity and decency. When we want to go into business, it's the same concept, that it's something that's mustahab to do, but it should be done in a way that protects us from loss and difficulty. Inshallah, tomorrow night we'll shift to a conversation that starts talking about some of our family issues that we have in terms of marriage, in terms of how do we look for a spouse, what do we do when we want to get married, when should we want to get married, and then after that talk about the family life in the next 2 nights that we have together, so that we can kind of take a look at some of the different elements that are pertaining to the quality of life that we possess. If there are more questions on the subject, you're free to ask me and to discuss. And again, with the understanding, and this is an important understanding, that this isn't only a male-related issue, this is a family-related issue in terms of both career and development. But it's very interesting that there is a different perspective in this. That Allah put the responsibility of providing on the man, and that for men, it is an obligation to be able to provide for their spouses. For women, that wasn't made the priority. For women, the priority was made to have a family. The reason that getting married and having a family was a priority for the women was it's the fastest way to go to heaven. And this is where we'll inshallah continue our discussion tomorrow, that why is it the fastest and easiest way to go to heaven, and what are the benefits of promoting this type of lifestyle. Inshallah, we finish again with dua. نَدْعُوكَ بِاسْمِكَ الْعَظِيمِ الْأَعْظَمِ الْأَعَزِّ الْأَجَلِّ الْأَكْرَمِ 10 times we call out. Ya Allahu, Ya Allahu, Ya Allah, Ya Allahu, Ya Allahu, Ya Allah, Ya Allahu, Ya Allahu, Ya Allahu, Ya Allah, Ya Mahmud بحق محمد, Ya A'la بحق Ali, Ya Fatir السماوات بحق فاطمة, Ya Muhsin بحق الحسن, Ya Qadim al-Ahsan bihaqq al-Hussein. Oh Allah, accept this small ibadat from us. Ya Allah, give the thawab of this majlis, this mention of Quran, dhikr of Ahlul Bayt, the fasting of this month and our ibadat, to our marhumin, the marhumin of today's sponsors, and all those who have no one to make dua for them. Oh Allah, we have hajat by the right of the month of Ramadan, by the right of these nights, the right of the dua and Quran that we recite, fulfill our hajat. Ya Allah, those who are sick amongst our families, our communities, give shafa'at to the mu'mineen wherever they are. Those who are suffering through strife and insecurity, give aman to the believers wherever they are. Keep our children on the upright path of Islam. Hasten the reappearance of Sahib al-Zaman. Make us and our families from the upright supporters of the Imam of our time. Entitle us the ziyarat of Ahlul Bayt in this world and shafa of Ahlul Bayt in the hereafter. Rahimallah man yaqra' Suratul Fatiha ma'as salawat.